going on? Happy Monday to everybody. Ouch, that hurts. Happy Monday to everybody. How are you? It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. And I hope you had an absolutely fantastic Thanksgiving. I had a pretty good one. I can't complain. Who am I? I am Bill Sylvie. I am the Dungeon Delver. I am your concierge of cavern crawling. Your dungeon master of ceremonies, if you will, if I can borrow that title from MC Chris. But anyway, let's get to it. Let's talk. I want to, okay, so there's something I want to kind of jump into this right now. Hello, Tommy Dye, Tonka Todd, good to see you. Damien247. I want to jump straight into something about, because I know I've been talking a lot about miniature prints for you guys. I'm still going to be offering those. There's something hopefully in the new year, and by in the new year, I don't mean like on January 1, I'm going to announce this. I mean, in 2023, I hope to make this happen. But I want to mention this real quick. So I offered the Owl Bears, and of course I offered the War Duke prints. And normally I don't like to offer a set of prints unless I get 10 pre-orders. I got 7 Owl Bears, and I think I'm at 6 or 7 War Duke sets. So here's what I'm going to do. Because the holidays are coming up, I am going to I'm going to reach out to the folks who put in reservations and see if they're still interested in, and if they are, with the Owl Bears, I will do a print run of Owl Bears where they stand, be it 6 or 7 or 8 sets, and I will do a print run of War Duke where they stand at 6 or 7 or 8. So that's a thing that I am offering for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope people are still interested in participating in that, and if they are, then awesome. That's what we'll do. Of course, if folks have said, "Oh no, I don't want to do it now," well, that's fine too. So we can just call it a bit of holiday generosity on my part there. I know I'm going to lose one customer straight away. T Presence over on the Discord has gotten himself a 3D printer and is already producing miniatures himself. So I got some competition out there, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm doing this just to help the channel out some, and I know I'm not going to get rich, although I do think the 2023 project will be quite nice. Anyway, so moving on from that, because you guys don't want to just hear me talk about lining my pockets. How is everybody? So this is a thing that I have decided. We've been doing the book deep dives, right? Have you guys been enjoying the deep dives on the books? Tell me if you have. Say to me, Bill, the deep dives have been fun, or Bill, the deep dives have been terrible, or the let's reads are as much fun as watching paint dry. You'd rather clean the grout in my step up tile with your tongue than listen to me do the let's reads. But I don't know. You'll have to tell me. But if you do, if you do enjoy those, well, we've got something coming up. I have decided this is controversial. I am bringing controversy. I'm gonna flip your D&D, your all of this, just flip it upside down. I'm knocking it onto your ear. So here's the deal. We as AD&Ders, we as old schoolers, those of us who have the books and the miniatures, we have our likes and our dislikes, the things that we enjoy about old school and the things that we don't enjoy about old school. Everybody knows AD&D is awesome. Everybody knows original D&D is awesome. Basic D&D players, here's a paddle ball. Go amuse yourselves. But the point remains, we're fairly uncontroversial with each other. Now, I have heard a story. Obviously, I was not there at the time. I was a few days late to that party. But at, I think, what was it? So UCLA, MIT, one of the big brain schools, and I think it was UCLA. They had a sharks and jets mindset because OD&D, original Dungeons and Dragons, that's right, Wave, I am almost at 1400. Because original Dungeons and Dragons is so, it looks like it's sitting in my hand right there. There you can see it, is so open to interpretation. Because it's so open to interpretation, there were massive D&D clubs on campus that played with a specific set of house rules because OD&D lends itself to a lot of loose interpretation in house rolling. Some people think that's a bug. Some people think it's a feature. Some people think we never should have evolved beyond that box set right there, that everything else was ruinous. I'm not going to get into the particulars of that, but it does kind of draw parallels to where I'm going when I'm talking about deep dives. So, OD&D on campus in a big school. Some people interpret the rules this way. Some people interpret the rules that way. These two groups actively disliked each other. These two bodies of students playing D&D would get angry at it. Like you show up on campus, oh yeah, I want to play that new Dungeons and Dragons game. Yeah, I'm going to go. Those guys invited me to play. Well, what do you mean? They're all a bunch of jerks and I shouldn't associate with them. Why? They sound like they're having fun. Oh, I'm a jerk because I don't well, fine, I'll go over there. They had that rivalry over who was gonna, So up until 1986, things are fairly stayed in the D&D world, right? You had the fogies hanging on to OD&D and supplements. You had your AD&D guys. There was kind of a fuzzy line between AD&D, Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and AD&D, DMG, Monster Manual 2, Forgotten Realms set, and all that jazz and mataz. It may have been Robert Phillips. Robert talking about Arduin, which is an arduous read. Aha! Aha! Anyway, so something happened in the history of TSR that impacted the game very directly. So here's a little bit of history. If you're new to the channel, first of all, if you're new to the channel, please click that like button. Please click that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Because, guys, we are 6 subs out from 1,400. That slow climb from 1,300, 1,400. I would surely like to get to 1,400 subs. I don't get anything for it. There's no, at least you tried cake from the guys from Susan. Everybody invokes her name. Susan at YouTube. So yeah, please like and subscribe. But if you're not up on your D&D history, if you're just like, if you just follow the most vanilla tapioca, room temperature tap water, white sheet of paper, 4 basic crayon colors, interpretation, Gary gave the company over to Brian and Kevin Bloom and Lorraine Williams and left in 1986. And that was that. Pineapple on pizza is delicious, Bob. Anyway, as do I. It's wonderful. That's my guy. That's not what happened. Gary was in California spinning D&D as a multimedia product. Now, let me tell you something. A lot of people give Wizards of the Coast flack for D&D as a lifestyle brand, okay? But look, I get it. You've got the most popular thing since 2 Romans sat down, each with a handful of 11 stones, him black, him white, and drew a grid in the sand and started moving them around, okay? I'm talking about checkers. I know chess was the Persians and it was much earlier. But yeah, I can talk about how delicious pineapple is on pizza and get a lot more controversy. Anyway, so Gary's out in California. Gary is out in California, and he is marketing the hell out of Dungeons and Dragons. He wants it to be as big as Star Wars, and it's getting that way. The D&D cartoon is immensely popular. He's talking to Edgar Gross. He's talking to John Borman. He's pitching the D&D movie. And those guys were movers and shakers until like the early 2000s, right? I think Borman still makes films, but I'm not sure. But he hears from the home base back in Wisconsin. TSR is in a hell of a lot of trouble, and the Blooms are trying to do a fire sale and flip this thing on Wall Street. Basically sell a bloated, ridiculously overvalued company. They just want to dump it. And, you know, if you come back to Wisconsin in 6 months, TSR won't be here. It'll be rattling around inside Milton Bradley or not even that. It'll just be some trademark owned by. So Gary pulls up stakes out of California. Let me ask you something. Did you ever wonder why after the first season and the season thereafter, or not after the first season, but after the initial run, and I think a year thereafter, you never again saw the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, not in the afternoons, not broadcast again on Saturdays, not syndicated on TBS. There's a golden number of episodes you have to hit, and it's 110. Gary had to leave California just before that number hit. And the stipulation about the D&D cartoon was that Gary had to approve every single script so it wouldn't get out of his control. And that was a very smart thing. And the D&D movie that Orson Welles was going to star in, and that Edgar Gross was going to produce, and John Borman was going to direct, and could have started a franchise, which back then was like a movie and a sequel and maybe a third sequel, not 28 goddamn films spanning a decade and a half. The one thing that I do know about Hollywood kind of stuff is you have to hold the baby at all times. If you lay it down, it will not survive. And if Gary wasn't out there pushing it, nobody was going to put it in turnaround. The D&D movie that Gary proposed never had a chance to enter production hell because it never even got to that stage, because he had to go back to Wisconsin and save TSR. What he found was a company that was $23 million in debt and had a pre-tax profit of $4. He seized control of the company, he threw the blooms out, and immediately sat down to save their fortunes. They couldn't get books printed. If you were buying D&D books at that time, you were buying warehoused stock. In 1984, late 84, early 85, you were buying warehoused stock that was running out because Random House said, you owe us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where's our money, Gary? So in the space of just a few months, Gary sat down and compiled a bunch of stuff. Because TSR hadn't had a new rule book, not a monster book, not a tome of creatures, not an adventure, but a new rule book that took the game in a different direction. And so Gary sat down and he took articles that he'd wrote for the Dragon. He took some ideas from adventures he'd written and just things that had been on his mind. And he began to concatenate and compile and refine those ideas and very quickly produced Unearthed Arcana. He negotiated with Random House to please print this. And in the space of a short amount of time, their pre-tax profit was $16 million. Because for the first time since 1978, remember, that's when the Dungeon Master's Guide drops. That is the final capital R rule book for D&D. If we discount monster volumes, there's been only 2 rule books released for D&D, the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. Here's this brand new book, brand new options. Now, a lot of people say, and like, I ran into this because I posted up a week ago or 2 weeks ago on the Twitbird thing there, the bleep bloop. I said, paladins are always lawful good. Paladins are always human. And of course, that blew people's minds. Are like, oh my God, what are you even talking about? Blah, 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 blah. It shouldn't be there. Blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm sorry, a chaotic, evil, half Asimar, quarter gelatinous cube, 1/8 drow, 1/16 draconic, with 16 levels of assassin and 5 levels of wild mage does not get to be a frickin' paladin. That's not how it works. So I put that up there and somebody said, we've been playing with alternate versions of paladins because they've been official since they were mentioned in Dragon Magazine in 1985. Pump the brakes there, Sheila. Dragon Magazine themselves, they stated that they were a step away from D&D. They were not published rules. They were options that you could or could not include in your game. Because half the time, some of the stuff that came in a Dragon magazine, grab a Dragon magazine off your shelf or open up a PDF. Open up a PDF, grab a Dragon magazine, and look through, and you're gonna find an article or 3 or 10 or 100 or 1,000. They're written by somebody who just sent it into the magazine. They got paid 2 cents a word, and they got to say they got something published in Dragon magazine. A lot of it ain't good. Okay? I say that as a guy who has created a lot of D&D stuff that's not good. If you've been hanging around me, and I don't think many of you have, but if you've been hanging around me since I started spouting off about D&D on the internet back to 99, I think, was when I set up the first Delver's Dungeon website came in late 2001. My ideas ain't that grand. Okay. They're not. I go back and I look at some of the stuff I was writing in my late 20s and early 30s, and I just kind of cringe. All right. And that's the way a lot of stuff in Dragon magazine is. So no, things published in Dragon magazine were not official D&D rules. They were ideas. And I think a lot of them were good. I like the Witch as an NPC class. I will use her extensively in my campaigns. So Gary takes his stuff that he had published in Dragon, starts bolting it together and putting some polish on it. Bam, out comes Unearthed Arcana, saves the company. But there is a price from a gaming standpoint. Here's the thing. A lot of Unearthed Arcana is not very good. I'm sorry, it's just not. And I think it's led us to the dire condition of D&D as it is today from a mechanics standpoint. Look, play the D&D you love the D&D you play. But hear this from a grognard, okay? That was an overdose. It was needed to save TSR, but it was a creativity overdose. I didn't mind a slight elevation of demi-human level limits. But the idea, I'm not even going to mention my favorite team in college sports. But do you ever hear, like in sports, it's like, okay, so here's a team, they've lost a couple of critical games. However, if these two teams lose and this team over here wins, but wins on the road, then this team over here has a shot to get into the playoffs or get into the championship game. And it's kind of ridiculous, right? With Unearthed Arcana, you can wind up with drow and half-elf paladins. I know, it doesn't make any gosh darn sense to me either. And I don't like it. I don't like things like that. And I think there are some seriously unbalanced spells. Everard's Black Tentacles. For a split second there, I thought I said the other thing that hangs twixt a man's legs. Everard's Black Tentacles are pretty much an instant death spell that a 4th level magic user can cast. Or are they a 4th level spell, which would make it a 7th level magic user? The point remains, it's an insta-kill spell. Stone Skin. The fact that paladins are removed to be a subclass of Cavalier, no, No, absolutely not. I'm kind of on the bubble about the Cavalier class as a whole. But absolutely, if you put a gun to my head and said, you gotta use Unearthed Arcana, you can change one thing in it, most people would be like, oh, I bet he's going to throw out Drow. I bet he's going to say no Stone Skin. No. Paladins are not Cavaliers. So there's a lot of stuff in Unearthed Arcana that I am not a fan of. I'm okay with the idea of a halfling being a druid. But I mean, as far as making ripples, this thing splashed like this thing splashed like Supplement 1 Greyhawk. Okay, people went gaga for Greyhawk because it was the same thing. They played AD&D for a year and a half, and then here comes Greyhawk, and that just changes everything. Tommy asks, has there been any other TTRPG had as many core design changes as D&D and still be considered the same game? Yes. Mech Warrior from FASA. Mech Warrior and Mech Warrior 2 are so fundamentally different mechanically. Like, Mech Warrior had D&D-itis with its XP system. And maybe one day we'll do a deep dive of FASA's Mech Warrior 1, Mech Warrior RPG. But basically, to level your character, it's like 5,000 to 10,000 for first level, and then 10,001, and it just so on. Just huge, gigantic numbers. Well, I mean, that's what TSR was doing, and people seem to like adding up hundreds of thousands of experience points. Mech Warrior 2, when it dropped, it is, first of all, it's easier, but it is so different. Oh my gosh, it is like night and day. They explain how to convert it, but like that is gone. Wait, you get like adventure points and from 1 to 3 adventure points. Yeah, they're night and day. And I know like GURPS Traveler or Mongoose Traveler or something like that is just crazy different. Twilight 2000 gradually changed, but like Twilight 2000 first and Twilight 2000 fourth are completely unrecognizable from each other. So yeah, it's a very controversial volume Unearthed Arcana is. And look, I'm not going to put on the kid gloves when I deep dive this thing and just be like, oh, Gary, you're so brave and so handsome for saving TSR this way. I'm not. There's stuff in there that deserves criticism. And I mean, it's kind of like dying during character creation in Traveler or bitching about, the 1d6 only for all weapons and tunnels and trolls. Like that horse left the barn, wandered into another field, sired a colt, dropped dead, was turned into glue, used on envelopes that were used, mailed out, opened up, disposed of, went into a landfill, and rotted to nothing. That's how far out of that. But we here, all of us, it better be all of us, play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And so here's an admission. If you've listened to me talk about when I played D&D from the early 80s, I played through middle school and a little bit into high school. And then it wasn't until like 89, it would, there was a gap of a few years that I got back into role-playing games, and it wasn't D&D. So like second edition and on and on and on until like another 10 years, 98, 99, before I got back into D&D in a serious way. You might notice that gap opens up right when Unearthed Arcana comes out, right? And I wasn't reading Dragon Magazine when I was a kid. I just didn't. So all of that stuff, Drow as playable characters, Paul, Drow as playable characters, cantrips. When I got back into AD&D and people are talking about cantrips, I'm like, the hell? I had to do homework. I had to buy a copy of Unearthed Arcana from my buddy Paul Stormberg on his treasure trove auctions on Usenet. Not even eBay, Usenet. And so this was brand new to me. I was like, oh, okay, all right, more AD&D. And then my buddy Scott, God rest his soul, he and I start talking about Unearthed Arcana, and he's just like, man, you ain't even. And start showing me a lot of the bugs in the system. And I was like, wow, this is not. So at that point, I hadn't spoken to Gary. At that point, very few of us know what went on at TSR at that time. So we, we're all kind of jumping back into this in 99 and like, yeah, this is brand new material to us. And I think there may be some folks out there, if you're watching this, whether you're on the stream now, 20 folks, welcome. That's a good number. Thank you all for watching. Whoever all is out there. If you've never said anything in the chat before, if you've never spoken, pop over and say hi so I can say hi to you. Because that's a lot of folks. For me, for my live streams, right? I mean, you get some people and they're like, hey, I was exactly, Luther, a stranger. That was it. I grokked. But anyway, so maybe you are like me in 99 and you're coming into this and you're like, oh yeah, on Bill's advice, I got a Dungeon Master's Guide and a Player's Handbook and a Monster Manual, and I'm rolling with it, and it's awesome and everything. And I'm looking at the hello Carthaginian. Oh, bad turn with the Romans, brother. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, Mobius. So there's this whole there's this whole can of worms that comes with Unearthed Arcana, and there's things in there that I will take to task. Okay, I will take things to task in Unearthed Arcana. I'm not going to sit there and blow sunshine up Gary's legacy. Do I think there are good things in Unearthed Arcana? Yes, I do. I'm okay with a minor up-ratcheting of demi-human level limits and allowing a few changes. A few. But it is such... Hello, Rick. It is such a sea change. It is such a fundamental change. Yeah, Wave, I got that historical jam down pat. it is such a fundamental change in how D&D worked in a lot of ways for characters that again, drow paladins. It is. Some people will say again, I know people who say unequivocally that the fall apart of D&D began with the release of Supplement 1 Greyhawk, that D&D literally should have stayed in this box and never come out of it. That there should have been no splat books, that there should have been no supplements. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel if you love OD&D that much, that's awesome. Don't hate on AD&D. But you can make a case that the arms race of supplementary guides for RPGs in general probably began with Unearthed Arcana. And we're going to look at it, guys. We're going to dig through it, and we're going to look at it with a gimlet eye. Maybe we come to the conclusion that it's not as awful as we think. Maybe we come with a conclusion away that we should polybag our copies so they stay nice and crispy and put them on the shelf and never frickin' open them again. Well, Luther, you are objectively wrong in your assessment. So fortunately, AD&D was already coming, and we didn't, we don't have to put up with that foolishness. I got to gig Luther a little bit. Hey, how about that Iron Bowl, Luther? Roll Tide. I got to say is if you don't, if you've never caught an episode when we've had Alan Hammock on the show, I gotta get Alan on after the first of the year. Holidays are coming up. I don't want to schedule. I mean, we're in the holidays. What am I saying? They're coming up. We're in the holidays. But yeah, I'll see if I can get Alan on, because Alan Hammock, of course, Ghost Tower of Inverness, editor of Greyhawk, so many cool things done by Al Hammock at TSR. Love having him on the show. He's a great guy. He's the American Christopher Lee. He really is. But Alan hails from Alabama, and he's a fan of the University of Alabama. So it's neat to be able to reach out to him on social media and talk to a guy whose name I used to see on D&D stuff when I was a kid, go, ooh, who's that? And know that he's a Tide fan and talk football. So that's pretty cool. I think Luther's lagging a little bit behind, as I was talking about that earlier. But anyway, but to move on to get back on track and not talk about college football, because I do that on Thursday nights. I have a show. Alan Hammock, I guess I did. But anyway, so that is a thing that's coming. Now, ultimately, one of the takeaways with Unearthed Arcana that you cannot deny, love or hate, because I don't want to get too bogged down in, what happened back in 1986. Look, we can't go, we can't go back in time. I mean, if you ask me, like, hey, what would you do to try and save D&D's history? I would say, I would pay the $500 that Don K's wife wanted. Like, send me back in time with $500 cash, legitimate tender for, minted in 1971, so I can hand it to Don K's wife, and Gary doesn't have to borrow money from Brian and Kevin Bloom's father, because that was the beginning of the wheels coming off. I would just say, I got you, Gary. Here you go. 3-month salary, depending on your job back then. So that's what's coming. That's going to be our next deep dive, guys. And I actually the copy, and I have a PDF of this that I'm going to be using because I obviously, like deities and demigods, I want you guys to see it. But let me show you. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so back about 8 years ago, when Wizards of the Coast was in their apology phase, they released this actually lovely copy of Unearthed Arcana. Let's bring that up on Rocket number 9, Cambot. Let's put that on Still Store. So right there, this beautiful copy, and it came with a built-in bookmark, stitched-in bookmark, and it came with the errata fitted into it. Although they put it in a weird place. So the book, we'll kind of dip our toes in a little bit. The book is divided into two sections. There's two sections of Unearthed Arcana, a player's section and a dungeon master's section. The player's section covers character creation, or character races, classes. We get the Cavalier, the Thief Acrobat, the Drow. We get some new kinds of dwarves you can play. Increase of demi-human level limits, and we also get new class openings, I think, for characters. And then over in the Dungeon Masters section, and there's new spells too. There's new spells for clerics, magic users, illusionists. And in the Dungeon Master section, now one of the things that's really handy about this, and we'll see it when we get to it, is there's a lot of little odd items that come up in AD&D that are fairly common, but for whatever reason they don't have an XP listing in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it's a little hard to intuit. Like, should that armor be worth 5,000 gold since the nearest is worth 2,500? What should that be? So there's a more complete XP table for random odd magic items, like just a +3 dagger, no special abilities. How many XP? How many gold pieces does it sell for? An author, yeah, the biggest fan of D&D made it their Viking hat. D&D's biggest fan. And I showed you that one to show you this one, because I've also got now the original. I said Gary got rid of the Blooms before publishing this, but he hadn't quite got rid of the Blooms. They still had their claws in the company. That incredibly durable textbook design that Gary was calling for back then ended for a while with this. Now take a look at that. All right. This thing's barely hanging on. I'm afraid to sling this around. And as soon as I opened it, you can see the pages. I mean, there were people buying these at Gen Con when this released. Oh, there we go. Right there. That one just split apart when I opened it. So back on the shelf this goes forever. And there's no errata in this. There's a misprint, which we'll talk about. That is a Car Wars box you see over there, Todd. So there we go. But anyway, to get back to... There I am. There's my smiling face. Yeah, the Yellow Spine books. Jeff Easley art on the cover. Good looking stuff. A Vampirella deep dive. Proper Vampirella, I would definitely do a deep dive on the Gold Key Comics Vampirella from the 60s and 70s. Not what they're doing with her these days. That's a really like sexy hot cover up there, but like it ain't the same. I should have done Car Wars. Well, I didn't, did I? And I can still. But to continue, oh, hello, 21 viewers. Good to see you all. To kind of continue. So yeah, there were people buying copies at Gen Con from the TSR booth and opening them up and them doing what you just saw with that copy and having to go back to the TSR booth and get a new copy. They were that quickly and that cheaply made. So when Wizards of the Coast released this one, the gold foil cover copy that I just showed you, they did a much better job. They are still cloth bound. They are not stitched. So the spines are still stitched, are still secured by cloth. But as far as I know, the pages aren't stitched in the books, but they all hold up pretty nicely. So, errata and all, we'll look at Unearthed Arcana. We'll deep dive it. And again, it'll be with a pretty critical eye. That starts tomorrow. We're kicking that deep dive off tomorrow. I didn't know how many how much deep diving I would be doing in December, but honestly, that and holiday-ish themed stuff I'll keep up. A D&D novel next to the Car Wars set. There is no D&D novel next to the Car Wars set. Is the horse holding it, Todd? No, what you see, which we did an unboxing on this way back when I first got this. This is a mini game. This is a mini game. Let's go back to table. Called Dragons of Under-Earth. And this is from Metagaming. This is the company that basically Steve Jackson, the person, worked for. And this is at its heart, this is GURPS. This is like a GURPS fantasy game. But I got this in shrink wrap on eBay, and it was like $25 shipped. And I could not resist because I had bought a copy of this way back when, and it got beat to hell. I would always carry it in my backpack on the premise that if I went to somebody's house on game night and then 3 or 4 people didn't show, hey, a light one-shot RPG we could break open and roll up characters. Never happened. The copy got destroyed and eventually discarded. So when I saw this on eBay for just literally a tiny amount of money, and shrink wrap. I snapped it up. So years ago, when I was just streaming on Facebook, I may not have been. No, I wasn't streaming on YouTube yet. I was streaming on Facebook. I set it up, and in the most awkward way possible, I opened this and we looked at it. Shelf to where you just pulled out the blue book. D&D novel are you talking about? That's not a D&D novel either. That is a... Are you talking about this? That is the box for the Amiga version of Eye of the Beholder from SSI, but the game isn't in there. This contains data cards for a tabletop airplane war game. Yeah, I don't know what game that's for, but there's data cards for an A4 attack jet. Maybe it's air supremacy or something. But Scott, God rest his soul, was using this to store those data cards because they fit in there quite nicely. And he had given up on the Amiga computer probably 2 decades before. But that's all it is. It's just a showpiece. I keep the cards in there to keep the box in place, so I can just kind of show the box off. But now I'm going to put Dragons of Under-Earth back. By the way, there is actually kind of an advanced Dragons of Under-Earth called Lords of Under-Earth. It's hella expensive if you can find it. Because as I understand it, Metagaming and Steve Jackson Games got into it over who owned the mechanics. Metagaming said, hey, you designed that stuff when you were here. It's ours. Jackson said, no, it's mine. And I took it when I left and started SJG. So Lords of Under-Earth came out, and then Metagaming just kind of, I don't know what, but the Lords of Under-Earth rules, like there were thousands of those that came out. There were hundreds of copies of Lords of Under-Earth. So if you see a copy, you know what, let's ask the eBays. What is Lords of Under-Earth doing these days? Let's see. Let's go to the Bay of Ease and see what it say. So let's say Metagaming Lords of Under-Earth. Yeah, so there you go. If anybody's looking for a Christmas present for me, if you're like, yeah, get something nice for Bill. Well, Metagaming's Microgame 18. I'll share this with you guys real quick. Go away. Share screen, screen 2, share, add to stream. So yeah, as you can see, $150. Ziploc edition, no box. So that may be why it's so expensive. And it shows a box. It's the Ziploc edition, not the boxed one. And they show us a box. Press X to doubt. Let's see. Oh, here's a box. This one, it says it's complete. There's the map unfolded. There's all the counters. And that one's $190. Guys, even if I had the money, I wouldn't do that. They popping up anywhere else there? There's plenty of if you guys want a copy of Dragons of Under-Earth, there's an unpunched one. There's one, buy it now for $22 and one for $99 because, hey, we can get people. We can find some ripe suck. But there you go. And then there's, are those modules? No, this is various stuff. But yeah, Lords of Under. You know what? Let's see. Still on the lookout for Saga Age of Heroes by Steve Marsh. Had it as a kid. Are you talking about the TSR mini game? Let's throw that in there. Right now, I am looking at an unpunched Saga Age of Heroes on eBay for $10. It's $10, Luther. It's right here, bud. You know what? Let's go. Let's look at buy it now. Here's one, buy it now, $5.85 plus shipping. It's punched, so I don't know how complete it is or isn't. Right now, go to eBay, and use the criteria, use the search criteria, and that I'm going to paste right there, brother. Right there. TSR minigame Saga Age of Heroes. I'm looking at one. I'm looking at an unpunched that's bidding on. Let's just go to buy it now. Let's see who's got buy it now. $24.99, $21.90, $30, $55. Booklet only for $16, map for $11, $44, $59. Yeah, dude, take your pick. Yeah, I'm not sharing a link. I'm sharing the search criteria. It's just the search criteria. You just go into eBay and paste those in. Do you have an eBay account, Luther? Do you have an eBay account? All right. Well, I'll share it again. Can't stay too much longer. I got my game starting in less than half an hour. And another place you can look is if you go to board. I got a copy of Attack Force, which is Star Wars. It's basically Star Wars Attack on the Death Star. I got a top copy of Attack Force, which is TSR, and it's brand new and it's unpunched and everything, and etc. I bought it on Board Game Geek. Let's go over to Board Game Geek Marketplace. So let's go to Board Game Geek and let's see TSR minigame Saga. No items found. Let's just try Age of Heroes. What do you mean no items found? Advanced search. I'm sorry, that's crap, brothers. Google, get over here. There. So let's see. Let's go to buy a copy. Geek Market, Saga English Edition. That's from March. So that is Board Game Geek here. I can paste links in the chat. So if you can't get it on eBay, you can get it right there, at least for the time being. Is there a channel just for knuckle cracks? I can't. I cracked all mine already. So there's no reason to do without Saga, brother. I hope you got it. I hope you got it. But I do want to know. If you did, in fact, get it. I need to know that Luther got his fix. So Luther, if you got it, if you got your order completed, whether you bought it on Board Game Geek, which is a little hoopy jumping through, or whether you got it on eBay, let us know. And while we wait for Luther, you want a campaign update on the Monday night game? I don't have enough time now because that game starts in like 20 minutes. But I'll spell you guys. It's one night this week. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Thursday evening. We'll see because I got the football show. But we got to know while Luther is with shaking hands. Come on, don't screw this up. Trying to get his copy. Let me just take a minute. Now, yeah, we are pretty invested. Let me just say, if you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is to click subscribe and click the bell icon for notifications because we're like a few people away from 1,400. It'd be nice to get to 1,400. I wouldn't hate it. But you can also support the show in other ways. You can support us on Patreon. You can support us via Subscribe Star. You can support us on PayPal Direct, and you can support us by buying me a coffee. Just buymeacoffee.com/bsylvie. And there are some folks who have elected to do those things in addition to being awesome all around, hang around on the channel, fun guys. So let me just take a moment to thank them as I do, because they literally help keep the lights on around here, folks. So let me say, with gladness in my heart and thanks on my lips, thank you to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corian. We miss you, Lord Corian. Please come back to us. Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword, Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien247, James Keck, William Smith, The Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob, Jeremy Rule, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, that Sky Hernstrom, the Pulp Fantasy Master Sky Hernstrom, Pete Sullivan, the DM's Council, and Baron Von Headbanger. Thank you all very much. And if you want to join those ranks, folks, again, we have plenty of options. You can do that thing. And I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Only 8,610. And at this rate, I will be 8,610 years old before that happens. That's right. If I hit 10,000 subs, we'll have an actual in-person, real face-to-face convention. I promise. And I'm promising because it's not going to happen. Got guys in the gym squatting whose knees sound like an old leather saddle. I can believe it. Hot damn, Luther arrives December 3rd. Everybody, let's hear it for Luther. I'm glad you were able to get something back there, buddy. I'm glad you're right. Now, who was that? You said that was Steve Marsh wrote that? That is fantastic. for all my ramblings, for all my random stumbling around that I do on the show, and I talk about stuff like this, like let's forensically examine this crash. Let's listen back to the black box and watch all the control maneuvers that happened to make all this. I zoom in close up to show off Unearthed Arcana. Todd asks, what's that D&D book next to Car Wars? I pull out what I think he's talking about, which is Dragons of Under-Earth, go off on a tangent, start talking about mini games. Luther starts mauling about not having a copy of Saga anymore. And then I go on eBay and we find it, and the man has got it coming back to him. What a tangled web we weave, huh? Well, listen, I've read the list of names. I've done my part for the gaming community, for you guys, for you, my community. Darn right, Kennick. I'm going to make 10,000 fake YouTube accounts to... No, I ain't going to be doing that. But I think it's been, all in all, a very good evening. A holiday miracle. Enjoy, Luther. I hope you and your family or your friends, I hope you just spread the joy this holiday season, and you're like, hey, anybody want to play some Saga? And you just put that map out and you start moving those chits around, and everybody just has a ton of fun. I hope you have that, my friend. This is the positivity. All right, guys? This is the positivity. In the outside world, the world's going crazy, and I'm just setting up force fields. I'm just pushing out with the positive energy force fields, and I'm just trying to keep us sane. Look, I got stuff going on. You got stuff going on. But when we step into this space, you leave your guns at the door. You leave your troubles behind. And we just sit and we enjoy all the positive things through the lens of our hobby. I care about you guys. I don't care about getting 10,000 subs. It would be great, right? It would be fantastic. It would be awesome. I would dance an Irish jig on camera. But the reality is, the positivity we've got is worth 10,000 times more than 10,000 subs. And if my fate was to stumble backwards and trip over some stuff and knock a box over, and oh, look, there's a copy of Saga on eBay for Luther to get, then that's what it is. I love you guys, all of you guys. I really do. I have a fantastic audience, That's a good thing to be thankful for in a time of the year when it's supposed to be thankful. That's what she said, Wave. And that kind of positivity, I just love. And I got 22 people watching now. That's like the peak, but I got to go. You know what? I'll stick around for a few more minutes. And talk about the positive, about the good stuff, quantity over quality. I take the quality. I sing and I dance. That's right. You'll never find a Saga game to buy. No one to tell you it's on eBay. You're gonna buy your game. You're gonna buy it. There you go. I'm obviously Superman. I am Superman, and I can do anything. So anyway, we got good stuff coming up. We're gonna be hitting with the deep dive on Unearthed Arcana. That starts tomorrow night. So Unearthed Arcana deep dive tomorrow night. Though after we talk smack, you share the Discord link. Always telling me to share the Discord link. We're going to play some first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We got a group. I've got a dungeon. It might have dragons in it. You don't know. So we got a group that's gonna amuse and entertain and enlighten. It's not Critical Role. It's better. It's Critical Real. That's what I'm bringing to you. Wednesday, and we hope that our resident there, got him to crack. Nope, not those. Wednesday, we've got possibly some Classic Traveler coming. Hoping Kyle will be back to us for some Classic Traveler on Wednesday. Thursday, more deep dive Unearthed Arcana. And then Friday, more deep dive Unearthed Arcana. But then we got Classic Traveler. We added somebody to the Classic Traveler game. That's going to be awesome. What do you think, guys? Should I share the Discord link? Peter Serafinowicz was the best tick, by the way. Peter Serafinowicz was awesome. But do we get a The Tick show? No, we don't. We do not. No, we get a bunch of grim gray crap for superhero shows these days. So here we go. You know what I should do an unboxing of is something. I have the Tick fan club kit. I forgot about that thing. It's over on a shelf over here somewhere. I have the official Tick was it membership Moab Mystic Order of Arachnid Vengeance. I'll share that with you one of these nights. Anyway, so yeah, no, I really do have to go play AD&D now. But I'm serious. I love you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful night. Enjoy your set of Saga Luther, and I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Be good. Take care of each other. Hug the ones you love. Good night.